will say I had an enjoyable watch. I really did enjoy this film, and there's a lot of good things to say about it. But at the same time, I've got a lot to say on the opposite side. I'm very critical of it. Now I'm going to get the good things out of the way first, and then I'm going to go on to the critical side. And this is a spoiler alert thing. I'm going to dive in heavy with the plot. So after what I say good stuff about it, if you don't want spoilers, you have been warned. Okay, so the good things. First of all, I like that this film really shows that it is more of a Batman film than anything. If you compare it to most other films, we see a lot of Bruce Wayne, the philanthropist, billionaire. And in this film, he really does not want to really associate with that. He just wants to be Batman. And the only time he really is himself is because he's still being Batman and believes that his presence there, he could probably spot certain things. And yeah, he really is hugely invested into being Batman. It's really interesting to watch. Another thing I enjoyed was how much of a detective story it is, that it's something that we don't really get when it comes to the Batman. We got hints of it in The Dark Knight, but overall it was more of a like vigilante, brutal Batman, which not saying is a bad thing, but yeah, it's nice to see that he really fully invests himself and indulges into the crime and the investigation part of this entire film. Another thing I really liked is the fight scenes, all feeling very unique and different from one another, which most comic book films do struggle with occasionally. Marvel, sorry. And it was nice to see. Zoe Kravitz did a great job in this film of being Catwoman. I like that they borrowed elements of her backstory from The Long Halloween. I just kind of wish the DC animated universe held back the films before releasing it, so that twist would be more of a shock to the audiences. But hey, not hating on it. I like that this film probably don't think they used that much of CGI, and they really stuck to using stunt doubles and shit like that. It's quite cool to see. I like that the Penguin was in this film, and not just as a background character, but he actually was more into the film than others. And I also really enjoyed the impact of the bat symbol, as we get to see how it impacts criminals and the fear it adds to them of the possibility that Batman is lurking in the shadows for them. It's something that Christopher Nolan touched upon again in The Dark Knight, but I feel like Matt Reeves really expanded upon that. So yeah, those are the things I really enjoyed about the film, and here's where I'm going to get really critical of the film. My personal opinion, the third act of the film, it felt very different from the first two parts of the film. So in the first part we get this really niche detective story, and it really does intrigue you. It's up until the third act, after they capture the Riddler. This is where it feels the tone of the film somewhat changes from a detective story to a vigilante, somewhat superhero story. Not slagging it off at all, but it just felt all of a sudden as we getting the Riddler having one last riddle, and it's really impactful. Like explosions go off and it creates this huge flood, and then it turns out that he has influenced a lot of people who also don his outfit and go out to try and take out the mayor. And it's at this point we really see Batman like having a risk and him having to stop people. It's really interesting. I just think it's very like, whoa, okay. Still interesting, not slowing it off in any sense. But when it comes to the first two acts of the film, I feel like removing Batman, some of this stuff would have still went down. Further over analysation, you realise that Batman didn't have that much of an impact in the film. Now, would they find out about Carmine Falcone? Maybe not, but it's because Batman, he kind of gets people killed. I'm going to really dive into deep in this. So, after the mayor is killed, which no one could have stopped, he deciphers it and he finds the word drive, and they go to his cars. And they open up and find a USB port in one of his cars. And upon opening it, they find photos of him with a woman. And those photos get leaked because of the Riddler, and that woman dies. So Batman indirectly kills an innocent woman through looking through evidence. And if, say for example, Batman was suddenly disappeared, the rest of the film makes more sense. Catwoman cracks the case, not Batman. And without Batman, the film still would have carried on with Carmine Falcone dying. Maybe the Arkhams and Wayne's secrets wouldn't have been exposed so quickly, but at the same time, he didn't save anyone's life. He didn't save Gil Coulson, he didn't save the Commissioner, he definitely didn't save Annie. And yeah, he didn't save anyone. And Catwoman was able to find out the information about Carmine Falcone, and if Batman didn't intervene, she would have killed Carmine Falcone. And the Riddler's prophecy, maybe not so much him doing the action, but still. And when it came to capturing the Riddler, yes, the cops. Yeah, the cops had more to do with capturing the Riddler than Batman. He deciphered some of the riddles, but when it really came down to it, the police had more to do with finding him and arresting him. It's up until the third act Batman actually does something. One glaring plot hole which someone else pointed out to me is when the photos got leaked, if they simply went to the location where the photos were taken, have a good look around, they may have actually found the Riddler's hiding place and stopped a few of the murders. But hey ho. Another thing that somewhat bothered me upon realisation is that this film borrows heavily from The Dark Knight and from The Joker. Now, I say those films as in The Dark Knight, the Joker goes after a particular judge, he goes after the DA, he goes after the Commissioner, and he goes after the Mayor. And I believe 2 out of the 4 are successful. In the film, The Batman, he goes after the Mayor, the Commissioner, DA, and obviously Carmine Falcone, and all 4 are successful. In The Dark Knight, the Joker does it for anarchy, to create fear upon everyone, whilst in The Batman, he does it as a political point. Just, yeah, putting that out there, with somewhat similarities. And also, they borrow heavily from the Joker, as some of Riddler's actions create influencers who believe in the Riddler and start following his plans. And whilst in that film, because in the Joker, his actions also create influence as well. And I'd say the Riddler's actions were really on point. He actually wanted to do this. Whilst in the Joker, he didn't realise the impact his actions had. So, and also the Riddler had more of an impact than his influences, whilst in the Joker, his influences had more of an impact than him himself, but he was the starting point. So yeah, when you realise upon these things, that's what put me off the film. So, I think overall, it's a great watch, but if you overanalyse the film, you really do see the bad stuff. You really do see the flaws in the film. But I definitely wouldn't say to anyone not to watch it, because visually beautiful, action scenes out the ass. Like I said earlier, I do love a lot about this film. It's just the plot, when breaking it down, it's somewhat a disappointment. So for that reason alone, I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10. I will be watching the next 2 Batman films and all the TV shows. I really enjoyed this universe, I really did. This world, they really brought me into it. I just hope they don't use the same Batman villains that have been used before, or if they are, they're going to add it to a somewhat more realistic level. I would definitely love to watch that. Maybe see a bit more Bruce Wayne. I mean, I didn't mind the fact they didn't, but it would also be interesting too. When it comes to recommendations, I definitely think it borrows heavily from Seven, so it gives off that vibe, so definitely go watch Seven. Great film. I would also recommend LA Confidential, as that also deals with police corruption and corruption with the mafia, so definitely go watch that. And Sin City, because of the corruption, dark vibes, and a comic book film as well. Very dark, just like this film, so definitely go watch it. Alright, that's it. Yeah.